Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. On this video, I'm looking at Sagittarius, February 2021. I'm very glad to put January behind us. It was a really difficult month, especially that second half. Although I have to say, often when we do have really difficult alignments, they might put us through the mill a bit, but often what we come out with is something we're really glad we've done or glad we've achieved. And it kind of sets us up, I think, for the rest of 2021. And maybe not right at the beginning of February, but certainly by the time we reach the 11th of February, there really is a kind of new rhythm and tone to life, just generally. And I would relate this quite a lot to the idea of the age of Aquarius. Astrologers are beginning to talk about this a little bit more, and I've certainly spent some time talking about it since Jupiter and Saturn arrived in Aquarius in December, and Pluto will enter Aquarius in 2023. And so I think the idea is that we really are, even if we don't know the exact date of the beginning of the age of Aquarius, we're definitely feeling a little Aquarian right now. And one of the principles about Aquarius, of course, is that it is the new age. Lots of things that we think about in terms of science and technology and the virtual world and space, that's all so Aquarian, as is all the sort of alternative healing and things to do with, I don't want to say the psychic world, because in a way that's Pisces world, but it has to do really with thought, the power of thought and thought processes and the speed of how things can be affected by our thought patterns. That's very Aquarian. And so I think we have an opportunity to really see whether any of this is really apparent in life during February, or how we can apply all those things to our own life. So let me just bring up your chart. And there it is. And by the way, I've just started to do this time, but you can see underneath here, I've said the moon in Sagittarius, 5th of February, comes in at 1717, and that's UTC, old GMT, and it leaves on the 7th of February, 2052. So it's quite important to know when the moon is in your sign, because it gives you a boost. It gives you an emotional boost. It makes you just a little bit more powerful and effective. So it's quite good to just make a note of that, and the times as well. So here's the chart, and we can see we've still got a familiar grouping here. All the planets still quite closely together, but they are moving around the zodiac circle. So this month we have a real emphasis in the area of communications and also travel. Of course, not a lot of us are traveling very far at the moment because of various lockdown coronavirus problems. But it may be that you are indeed going to take a trip in February. But I think more than that has to do with making a journey in terms of experience and knowledge, and the mind really is much, much more powerful. And in your year ahead forecast, which you can get on Astrolutely, I've talked about Saturn and Jupiter's journey through this third house in terms of really using your voice. And, really in these days, when we think of all the social media, we're all on most of the time. There is that way of reaching out and exchanging ideas and information and all of that. But it's also, I think, in other ways that we need to find our voice. We need a platform to build our ideas on. And I think that's really more the purpose of Saturn and Jupiter's transit here. And because Saturn will take 2.5 years to go through here, I think if you're already thinking, shall I take a study course? Shall I add to my skills? It's going to take me a couple of years to do that. Though that's the right thinking. Now is the time to really think about the future and how helpful it would be to have more skills or more, knowledge, information, that kind of thing, that will either change your career path or change the way some aspect of your life works, or it may just simply add to it, give you more options. In Sagittarius, the great traveler of the world, you have a huge window on the world normally. And I think now we've got this little cluster of planets in this more community oriented area of the horoscope. It's talking more about building your platform, even building your community in order to make a bigger splash on the world. So we have this theme going for us all of February, and it may be a time when you are learning something, or maybe you're taking an exam, I was going to say a driving test, anything like that would apply to this third house, but maybe also you're having some pretty important discussions with people. Now, I like the week beginning the 8th of February, 7th, 8th of February, because Venus will be getting closer to Jupiter every day, and by the time we get to the 11th, there'll be a new moon in the same area. That's really powerful, Sagittarius. If you're going to have to sell an idea, then you go for it in that week. If you need to talk to people with a view to getting support or guidance, whatever it may be, do it in that week. Always do things when you have the right climate. It's a bit like using the current. If we go with the current, we do well, we get further. If we fight the current, no good at all. So the current really is taking you forward in terms of communication, in terms of your platform, in terms of building your platform, getting your voice across. And if you keep remembering those things, you'll take advantage of some of the opportunities that come and greet you just out of the blue, and those you create for yourself. Now, on the 14th of February, Mercury will be conjunct Jupiter. And this is the second time it's done this. It did it the first time on January the 12th, but because Mercury turned retrograde on the 30th of January, it's now going backwards and is going to hook up to it again. Now, the 14th of February is Valentine's Day, Valentine's weekend. So there is a chance that you might have something important to say to someone, or maybe someone has something important to say to you. And it might even have a reference to something that happened a month ago. Maybe even if you met someone a month ago, perhaps by the time you get to the 14th of February, it seems as though, there's a lot going on in this relationship. But I want you to think in terms of 3. Because, yes, January the 12th, the first time Mercury conjoined Jupiter. Second time in retrograde, 14th of February. Then on the 5th of March, Mercury is going to meet Jupiter again for the third and final time in this little cycle. So it's something that might go this way and that until it's finally resolved on the 5th of March. And there are 2 ways to look at this. If something does appear to turn pear-shaped around the 14th of February, you may find that by the 5th of March, it's turned the corner again. Communication is key all month. So when Mercury is retrograde, don't leave things to chance. If you're going to meetings or you've got planes, boats, and trains to catch, that would be lucky, then you want to leave plenty of time to get to the, point of departure, and the journey might be a little educational, shall we say. And the same really with meetings. I do a lot of virtual meetings, and I'm being particularly careful on a retrograde Mercury that I set up a lot earlier because things just go wrong. You can't, your computer isn't working properly, the connections, all those kind of things. So you need to think a little bit more carefully about meetings and travel and actions that you take on a retrograde Mercury. What a retrograde Mercury doesn't mean is that everything you embark on is doomed to failure. That's absolute rubbish. Mercury may take you where you didn't expect to go, but that doesn't mean that isn't a good thing. It could be part of the story. And you always learn something valuable on a retrograde Mercury, I make a point of noting down what really valuable experience happened to me that I could relate to something coming back and going back on something every time there's a Mercury retrograde cycle. And sometimes there are 2 and 3 occasions where I've been very happy to go back on something, that something got cancelled. It turns out much better when it comes back to you again. So keep bearing that in mind. Now, did I say that Mercury turns retrograde on turns direct on the 21st? Remember that, because obviously as it turns direct, often things that were buried under, whatever they may have been buried under, come to light. And during the course of the following week, you may find all sorts of things that were missing or didn't get to you start to come back. So here finally, we have a full moon, Sun in Pisces, Moon in Virgo, and this is the life direction axis. So it could be a pretty important full moon. And full moons are about endings, they're about closure and completion. And this happening about 10 days after Uranus has squared Saturn, which is also about endings and roots coming to an end and new ways forward. There's a bit of an astrological piece going on here. So, don't get too kind of focused on the dates. I give you the dates because that's when things are exact, but we want to be a little bit more fluid than that. So we think, somewhere around the 17th, somewhere around the 27th, 10 days later, there's this idea that something has to be put to bed. And I mean, it's going to be different for different Sagittarians, but if you've got that thinking in your head, it'll be much easier. It's good to do what's appropriate at the time with astrology. So now it's appropriate to end some kind of activity, to stop certain connections that you may have, because you can't do everything. You can't have all the same things going all of the time because it's too crowded. It's a bit like this crowded little house here, massive things going on, congested, can't see the wood for the trees. So it'd be good to end things. And I think that's also what the Saturn Uranus theme is doing. It's saying, maybe you've taken too much on. Maybe you've got just too much on your plate. And really something needs to, not happen anymore. If you look at it like that, then it becomes productive and it doesn't become a problem. And that Saturn Uranus square, which happens for the first time on the 17th, will occur twice more during the year. It happen again in June and again in December. And there's a bit of a process going on all year with this idea that some roots are running out, but it's a good thing because remember, we are entering or in the early stages of the age of Aquarius, and we need new roads. We need diversions. We need change. So I hope that was all very helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again in another month or on my other videos that I do. Bye for now. Take care.